A warm welcome back to the Forensic Unplugged channel, guys. Do not forget to subscribe. So we're on video 3, I think, of the carbon fibre roof install, and all the welding, all the spot welds have been drilled out. All of the metal has been kind of sanded back, just using a spinning sanding wheel on a drill and a metal file where it's really burred. So I've got a smooth edge and just made sure any bent metal is kind of lowered back down. It wasn't much bent metal though, really. It was mainly burring from the spot weld drills. So once that's all sanded back, I've etch primered over the exposed edge from where I've been sanding to cover the steel, and etch primered wherever I've drilled and gone through. I just etch primered underneath, just like dabbed it on, so that we're all sealed up, so we don't get any kind of corrosion issues later on. It's not that those areas aren't going to be massively prone to corrosion, but you just want to seal it up and etch primer it. So that's been done. Now the roof is going to go on, and we'll fit that right now on top while you're watching. The aim of what we're doing today is to make sure we can get the roof sitting flush in the right position, ready for us to then drill through the roof in about five places here, and then 5 along there, 5 along there, 5 along there, and rivet it in. And then when we're ready to rivet it in, we'll put epoxy sealant 3M9293, which is going to be the hard curing epoxy resin. We'll put it on this edge here, and I will just sand that to give it a key, and then the epoxy resin we'll put onto this, and then fit it on top in place, and then rivet it down, and then G-clamp it. So I've got a load of those G-clamps in here. I might need to put them on blocks or something, because we're gonna need to compress into the channel. So some sort of wedge possibly will need to go in there. Maybe cut little wooden blocks, and then G-clamp it in under pressure, and then leave it for 24 hours to fully cure off, or whatever the epoxy thing says. And then it's done. So what are the concerns? The concerns, you don't get it fitted straight. So those seals there have to go back in along here, and in an ideal world there won't be any gap, and they'll seal up. But I think the gap that's going to exist with the new carbon fibre roof is going to be bigger, perhaps, this is just me thinking ahead, than the existing roof. So the clamps which these mount onto, those clamp in as well. So those roof rails, but they're underneath the roof rails, they're for the rack mounting if you put a roof rack on. These things here, but there's a bit of play. These are the clamps. They pop on and clip onto those clips there, but there's good play in this. The more that wedge pushes that way, the wider that goes. So these should be able to lock out. If they can't, then a little bit of maybe silicone adhesive, something like Tiger Seal, along just a thin bead of it along each strip, so that once you put these in and wedge them, there's no play in them. Yeah, that should be okay. Just need to do that bit carefully so that those do pop in properly. You don't need all of them, but you need at least 3. The only reason I say that is some of the heads on them are damaged, but I've got at least 3. 1, 2, 3, ideally 4, to make sure that those rails do clip in. So that's that part of it. We'll put the roof on in a second. I just want to draw your attention to the cage vibration issue. I had this horrible problem with the cage resonating, and I think it's fixed now. And I think the resonation was coming from this plate here, which is like a thin plate with the logo cut out. And because it's cut out, you've got all these little jagged bits of lettering that are prized off. And this plate wasn't as tightly welded to the cage as that side, and there's less resonation from that side. So what I did is push cured rock hard black wedges of rubber. You probably can't really see, but I pushed them underneath all the letters, and on the bottom edge is a block of silicon prized in there and pushed under pressure. Not silicon, but this stuff, literally this stuff. It's rock hard. You can cut it into little wedges. So if you push it in and force it so it's butting against the cage, the resonation seems to go away or improve. But I think that'll be good now, because it was buzzing. Tapping it never made it sound as bad as when you drove the car and you got the revs up and it would suddenly kick in. You can hear it on my track day videos, and this thing would vibrate and buzz massively, and it was really annoying. So I'm really hoping that's fixed now. But what I don't think it is we were going along the lines of thinking it's metal inside the cage. I don't think it is. I'm 99.9% sure it's that plate. I'm virtually 100% sure. So that means the good news is I haven't got to drill into the cage and like fill it up with foam. Or I was also playing around with magnets on the outside of it to see if it was a bit of desolated metal or welding or something, you know, in there. If you get a magnet on the bar, you'd think that would magnetize it and it would stop it. And I couldn't stop it by placing magnets all over where I thought it was coming from. And that's when I discovered that I think it's coming from that plate. Yeah, because if you grab hold of that plate like with your hands, the vibration goes away. It's definitely that plate. So let's get this roof on and just have a look and see what's going on in terms of how it sits. Forgive all the sniffing as well. It's just quite moist in here, and it's early in the morning. So I've got all this, the top of it all sealed up so that I can't scratch it all. But I will need to do a bit more. This will probably scratch the etch primer. It's had a day to cure. You know, initially it feels to me like that is sitting good. On this side, that is sitting good. That sits good. That sits really good. What Dan was saying is when he put his in, it was a different one. It didn't sit flush against the panel. So he had to spend ages messing around with it to get it to sit flush. But that is sitting flush on the panel. There's a little bit of give there to get it to go down. Let me just bring you in. Sorry, let me just do a quick blow of my nose so I'm not sniffing all the time. Oh, there we go. So if we look here, we just want it to sit, you know, sit down well without it sort of springing around on the main parts. And that there feels absolutely rock solid, like that's in. Now you could just take a little bit of material off that edge there. I could just take a little bit of material off that edge there. Yeah, so it just goes over a little bit more, but I don't know if it's not just the edge. I can feel that's a solid chunk of Kevlar underneath. So sanding on that bit isn't really going to do us any favours unless we sand a whole lot. We'd need to sand there. But the thing is, you're going to be just tearing into Kevlar. So I don't know about that, but I would suggest that is sitting absolutely flush on that rail as is. Now this rail here, remember it's going to be riveted, so we could use more rivets. So if I'm riveting in there, that's pulling it forward. If I'm riveting in there, that's pulling it forward. Riveting in there, that's pulling it forward. I don't think you're gonna get that better through sanding or anything. I think that's good to go. That's gonna sit. That's gonna be pulled in tight on that bar right there. It is a bit higher. There's less to So the original roof would have come down lower, the steel panel, but that's in the right position. That's hooked over the edge there. So that's just part of it. So what you want to do, oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's just interesting because under there's a lip. So you don't have a lot. So if you've got a drill, that doesn't really matter. So you'd go there, like I'm just feeling underneath with my finger. So I'd rivet there. I've got double skin there. So I've got a big bulk, a big piece of metal there that I want flat metal. But there's enough, You'd have to rivet close to the edge, but that's fine. Yeah, so I can't rivet here because that piece of metal right there is in the way. Then I come here, yeah, so that's fine. I can rivet, I'll just rivet where it recesses so I can get in there. That's fine, so I'd be riveting around here somewhere and that will pull all that in. So that's gonna be fine. Yeah, so I don't think there's any sanding required there. You'll notice it's how wide this gap is that's the concern because of what I was saying. It's a little bit narrower. So if we look at that, we're going to need to measure, I think, and just make sure we've got the same gap each side. So if we go round, again, that is sitting absolutely flush with no play. This piece, this back piece. So, oh, sugar lumps, I didn't want to do that. Right, we're back in position. So this is the only bit here that sits up. Yeah, I noticed this. So if I just make a little adjustment to this, I think I'm roughly in the right position here. No, I'm not in the right position. That needs to hook over. So there is going to be some messing around here. Yeah, this is the bit. So this side is going to need sanding or material removed to get that down. That gap looks about right to me along there. This is the bit that you've got to get right. You want that roof sitting absolutely snug, like this side is good. This side's perfect. I haven't got to play around with that at all. That's good. That's down on that's down with no bite. I'm almost tempted to tape that in place just for a second so it doesn't wobble around. That side is down, so that's sitting on that rail now perfectly. That's not sitting proud, but it is a bit up there, and that's sitting down. The only problem is here, there's a bit too much of a gap. But we can pull all that in, that's absolutely fine. That'll all pull in with the rivets. Again, we have to come out there. We have to find the right place to rivet on, which will be the little flaps that come out. You can see that from under there. So we need to rivet on the bits that protrude, like there. If you can see that, that's not a problem. I just want that to come down a little bit more. So I'm going to mark where that's butting. We'll do that now. So I know where to remove a little bit of material. Let's just get a chalk marker. You can buy these on eBay. Auto marker, they're quite handy. So if I just mark on the tape as well, in fact, I can just mark there. That's water soluble, so that comes off. It just tells me where I need to remove material, and I'll need to remove it there and around that edge, just so that I can pull that down slightly more. I want to pull it down so that, well, that is sitting there. It's not going to move much, that actually. There's not massive benefit to this. This is almost acceptable. That's all acceptable. That's all acceptable. That's all acceptable. But now we find here we're sitting up, and this is not quite right. See that gap there? When that comes down, there's still a big gap underneath here. Saying that though, yeah, so there's still a little bit of a problem here in this corner. So I can't come this way at all, really. If I try, no, because that's butted up now against that. So this will not slide further forward, really, without that lifting up. Yeah, so it lifts back there. So yeah, I do need to move. I need to remove material from here to give me a little bit more play to sit that down. And I need to move material from here so that that just clears that a little bit better. I can move metal as well. There might be a little bit of mastic under there. And that is just to allow this whole thing to sit down. So let's get this onto the workbench. I'm figuring I've got P150, which I figure will be aggressive enough to remove this material at a reasonable rate. If not, what I can do is put a sanding bar on a little Dremel or a drill bit that spins like a Dremel bit bar, and that will be more accurate and that will remove material quicker because it's on the drill. So let's take this roof and set it down. I'm a bit tight on space. So Zweeks. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just where there's excess Kevlar. The problem is I don't know what sanding this is going to be like. I don't know what sanding this is going to be like. I need to speak to Dan, actually. I don't know if he had Kevlar on the bottom of his. Probably would have done. So it's here. There's a little bit of a bulge. I just need to get a nicer tight line. I can see that line over there is a bit tighter. That's a bit more built up there. Same with this side, but the problem is it's going to fray up a little bit when you know, this is like a material, like a cloth soaked in a hard resin. Yeah, it's going to chew it up a little bit. Yeah, I need to speak to Dan, but I think the first thing I'll do is just give that a light sand on that resin, just to provide just a key. But I'm just going to do a very light sand. So that's all sort of scuffed up a little bit so the adhesive can sort of bite into it a little bit more. I'll be back once I've spoken to Dan the man about this. Doug. 1 2 1 2 1 2. I'm back. Okay, I was just speaking to Dan the man. Yeah. So you can't really sand Kevlar as such, but we need to just lower this bit down here and this bit down here, and we're going to be putting resin back in here. So any sort of loose Kevlar will get resined back up. So I've just taken a little bit off of that. I've just taken a little knuckle down there off of that, and I've just taken a little bit of mastic that was in that edge out. I'll reprime over this, and a little bit of mastic that was in there off again, so I need to reprime. I'll just give that a little sand and tidy up, and then put a bit more primer over it. So if I just see where we're at. So I think the reality is, because this isn't really a sort of like, it's not like a fiberglass panel or a plastic panel that you can really play around with so much. We're going to be more reliant on the rivets pulling it all in than chopping this up. And it's pretty good fit, actually. It's a pretty good fit. It's a better fit than I thought it would be. Because normally when you get these panels like this, it's a decent fit, that is. That's a really good fit on that edge. And now what I think we'll do is we'll use those wedges that I was talking about to make sure, if we get those wedges and measure those wedges out, and then we use a wedge on this, or two wedges there, a wedge there, a wedge there, a wedge there, a wedge there, that will give us a good centre, a way of centering it as well. So, still not great there. Still not great there. That's the only bit that's going to pull it back. You see, it's going to, the rest of it sits down on that metal. So I do need to work that more. There's no two ways about that. I need to work that more. Get that, you know, it's better to take that material out and make a little bit of a mess of the Kevlar, but have that sitting flush or flusher to that piece of steel than it is to leave it. But it does sit down fine. So there's not going to be, yeah, the reality is there's not going to really be any wind noise or any of that, and that will all clamp down. But I'm just not happy with such a big gap there. So I will just take a little bit more out there. And of course, there's always going to be one end that sticks up, and that is this thing here. And really, again, as I pull that forward, it's going to pull it over the edge at the back where it's got to be. That's where that needs to be. So where I've marked that, that's where it should be. Yeah, that's okay. It's not. I need to take a little bit off, but it's okay. The reality is that's going to be down like that. It's going to be, see, that's all going to be clamped on tight. But yeah, I do need to take a little bit more off, because that's in place. So it's just actually to the right of that line where I need to move more. Every little mil I can get. Let's just check that. So that's roughly right. Yeah, every mil I can get, and it will start giving me a little bit more with the aim of getting it like that. That's what we want. That's really good. That's really snug. Yeah, that's brilliant. So this side is what I want. It's almost like it's longer. That's great, that side. It's not far off that though. Yeah, it will be fine. Even if I fitted it like this, once that's riveted there and riveted there, it's going to sit flush on that panel, and I can fill that up with a bit of tiger seal if needed. I will take a little bit more material out though. It's that edge there, because really that needs to be like that. That's its position. So I don't think it's ever going to go right down on this side, but it's not going to vibrate. It's going to be covered in epoxy. So yeah, I'll come back once I've done a bit more filing and just got a little bit more out of it, so I can get a little bit closer to where I am. But it's never going to drop on there and go, ooh, that's perfect. I just don't think it will do that, but it will be close. It will be close, I think. Yeah. We were discussing, if I just take this off, I was just chatting with Dan, just going to be a quick 5-minute chat. It always ends up being about 45-minute chat. But let me just take this off and I'll show you one other thing that's playing on my mind. The only other thing we were discussing, so we'll drill out 4 holes for alignment, you know, somewhere around the 4 corners that we can use to align. Once we think we've got it aligned using those feet, we'll drill the 4 holes and then bolt it in just with temporary holding bolts just to hold position while we drill out the rest of the rivet holes. This, I thought this was like a sealant, but this is like a butyl that's gone rock hard. That was butting up against the steel panel to obviously stop vibration. I was going to take that off and replace it with tiger seal, but I don't think I should. That wasn't bonded to the roof. That's not a sealant, that's butyl putty like you get around the those door cards and stuff. So I've left that on. But what we'll probably do is just put a bead of tiger seal along the top of it once the roof goes on, because you can see how that one's been flattened down. So that was under a lot more pressure, this putty, and pushed. So we'll put a bead of tiger seal there and just put some weight onto the roof once it's installed, so that effectively it kind of bonds to it. I think would be better. I think that would be the way to go, so that it's riveted, it's not going to move, and it's just in case there's any gap. Dan was saying that if you put it on from the inside, you can then chuck in tiger seal, blob it out, so that it's not flexing on this, which might be the way. But I think a bead of tiger seal across the top might be the way to go as well, to stop all that. But then if you put it there and it's not bonding, it's not touching, it's just going to go hard. But that's not going to do any harm anyway, is it? It's not going to do any harm. So if that is the case, and it's tight on that edge and not tight on that edge, and you can get, there's a mil gap, do what Dan says, which is just blob in loads of tiger seal and get it like all wet, so it's touching the top and the bottom, and then do the same over there and do the same somewhere in the middle. That is going to be good enough to stop it resonating and all that sort of stuff. Just in case, I think it'll be okay. If it does, if there is flex, yeah, you just want it to hit that tiger seal, so it's not, there's no way it can hit panel, so you don't get a bang, danga da danga dung. I've got enough dunga da dunga dungs from the cage. I don't want any dunga da dunga dungs from there. So yeah, good. So I'm going to do a bit more filing, and I think that's the file I want to use. That will go through that quite quickly, but just slowly but surely, just take some material out of there. Okay guys, I'll be back. Okay guys, I'm back. So what I'm doing is trying to take material out of here and material off here and material out of here and material off here. We'll re-etch prime, like I said, to try and get this to sit flusher. So if I just pull this back, you see what I'm trying to work against here, or what I'm trying to achieve. Let's just go and align it on this side, which is always important. So you think you got it right on one side. It's just a bit wider than that seam line. So there, and that's sitting down flush on that panel, which is what you want. Okay, when that sits flush there, you're like, you ain't getting any lower, and that's sitting flush, and that's sitting perfect. You see that? That's as low as it will go, and it needs to sit low, so when the glass goes back in, we get the right height on the glass. So that's in a pretty good position. It just needs to come that way a little bit, but it's in a good position. So we know this side's good. Then the problem we have is this side, you see, it's still sitting up, which means that's going to sit high when the glass comes around. We could always, you know, ultimately when we're putting the glass on, if this protruding is a problem, we can remove it. We might have to do that, because I'm taking off a lot of material to try and get this lower, and it is a struggle, because you're not supposed to sand on the Kevlar. And you can see the same thing with this side. So this is in the right position. It's hooked up all along that ledge, but it's just still butting. But we are making a bit of progress. It is getting lower. In fact, it's not a million miles away, but it's got to go lower. So it's like, I need to just keep working where I can see it kind of butting till I can get that to sit down. We're not a million miles away, actually. It's slowly improving. It's like, it's a lot of messing around, but it's nearly there, actually. Like a couple more mil off of each thing, a couple more mil off of that channel there, and a couple more mil off that channel, and then that will be able to sit down onto the panel. You can see there, if it protrudes too high again, if that's too high, up on the glass is not going to sit, the glass isn't going to sit plush. Again, there's always the option of just slicing over that, and that'll all be covered in sealant anyway. Don't have to worry too much about corrosion. This will all be kind of sealed up. Not corrosion, rot on the, you know, that getting all wet and soaking with water, but we'll make sure we've got a bit of sealant on any of the exposed bits. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on kind of working that, and I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. So I'm slowly but surely dropping the level of this piece here to get it closer to being flat onto that edge. I'm making progress. It's really slow, and it's a combination of things. And I'm making progress getting this flatter as well. It's nearly there. And I'm using 3 tools. I'm using this curve file to get into here like this and file into there like that. Just literally doing that, which I think you just have to do. I'm using this metal file to just remove material from here slowly, like each time you're just moving you just edge it to where you go. And I'm just gently working the metal sometimes as well, just to, I think that was sitting a bit higher here, so just to slowly gently tap away at that, just to drop a bit off of it as well, just because that's steel, so gently tap away at it, don't crack it, and just keep gently going, and you're just gently creating more space. And as you do it, so this bit, that all pins down there, but it still sits up, and I can feel it's there, it's butting. So you just got to keep doing that little trio of things, and as you do it, you get closer and closer and closer to this being able to sit flush on that panel. And that's the most important thing, really, because if it sits flush, I'm not going to have the glass sticking up. There will be some tolerance in the glass because they put thick paste on there, so when they put the glass on, it will sit on a thick bed, and it should, even if that sits, you know, a few mil proud, there's a bit of tolerance to be able to push that in, maybe put a little bit less sealant, but it needs to be better than that. So I'm just going to carry on doing my 3-piece and just get it closer. This is difficult, this bit. Yeah, it's difficult because I'm removing more material from this than I wanted to, but you have to, really. Like I say, if you don't, it doesn't sit flush. And this is what you've got to do with these kind of panels. And you know, if I don't take it out of here, I've got to take it all out of here, and that's going to be too much to take out of there. So it's a combination of a little bit of both, slowly but surely, catchy monkey. I'm getting there. Okay, guys, final segment in this part 4. Actually, it's not part 3, isn't it? So the roof is fitted on, and I've put these brackets on, and they bolt on from underneath, and you can tighten these up and clamp the roof down. This roof is never going to come off. Just those alone would stop it ever coming off. So with all the rivets and the glue, yeah, I've got no worries that this is ever going to fly off. Although don't quote me on that. So what I'm doing with these, I'm using them to position it. So I think I'm in position, and I've torqued these up so that they're pinning this down, and that's where I'm going to leave it. And I think I've also, very importantly, got good position here. So where this is a good position. I made an executive decision to trim this piece because I've come to the conclusion where it was overhanging, you're never going to get it lower by taking other material, because it was just, I've got it as low and tight on that as I could, and it was still up high, and that's just the nature of doing this. And it just dawned on me, chop that so you don't have the high point, and then you've got loads, you can put in a bit more sealant there if you want, but it doesn't really matter. And that's all flush now, and that's good. This is good. This shouldn't rattle around. This is going to be clamped in. This is going to be glued in. I know what I've got to do. So that's the end of this one. In the next video, what I'm going to do is go through and mark my points to drill my rivets, and we'll probably put in more So we'll drill out all of the rivets straight through while this is clamped in, and that also means we can use those rivet holes then to position when we put this back on. So this position is critical. I'm going to be spending some time off camera just double checking positioning. Yeah, but once the rivet holes are drilled, I've got a means to align it off of all those holes that we put through. We won't actually need that many. We won't. It's pinned down with those. You don't need that many rivets. 4 would be enough. 4, 5 maybe. Yeah, drill it all out, and then unfortunately the roof has to come back off, and then I have to primer again, etch primer all the rivet holes, etch primer all the bits that I've sanded, you know, and all that, where I've got exposed metal. Just make sure I'm good with my etch primering. Then roof back on, position it up. This is the difficult thing. Roof back on. At some point, you have to put the roof on with the epoxy sealant on there, back on, and then rivet while it's got that epoxy sealant. So it's that point. So you just do a trial fit, no epoxy sealant, line up all your rivet, line up all the holes to the rivet holes, make sure it all goes on easy, and then back off again. Epoxy sealant on the underside of the carbon fibre. That's the important place to put it. If you put it there on the metal, I think you'll get it splattering out everywhere and going rock solid and maybe affecting your roof rail mounts later on. So yeah, and obviously you want a good bead all the way around, so you have a full seal. This should be reasonably weatherproof, but water will get in here, but it will be sealed up there. You could run a little bead of mastic along here if you were really anal. I don't think you'll need to, but I don't think that would be a bad idea actually. We'll see what that's like. I might do that. Yeah, that's probably why it had mastic in there actually after the original roof was done, just to make sure the water didn't get in any seals. So we could do that, just a little bead of tiger seal and rub it along, but God, you don't want to use that tiger seal unless you really don't want to ever take that off again. But then again, this is never coming off. So there we go, guys. It's all going very well. This has been a lot today, just messing around. A lot of time has been spent filing this and just working the panel slightly to get that to this stage. And this has probably been the hardest bit, along with cracking out all the spot welds. Yeah, this is just a little bit tricky, but yeah, I think the process is good, and I think the moment we put this roof back on with the sealant on and we got a good alignment and we bolt in after we've got the alignment ready to rivet, I think we're virtually home and dry at that point. Yeah, we are home and dry at that point, and it's just a case of glass back in, and away we go. So we're getting there, yeah, enjoying it. Thanks, bye.